technology just allows us to do things.
Sure.
It sets about in front of us what is permissible, but it is actually what is possible. It is we, the people, who should be deciding what is permissible. And so I'm watching this whole Facebook problem, and it's a huge problem where, you know, something that started off to be so benign, to put university students in touch with one another, you know, now turns out to be a tool that can fabricate stories, go all around the world at record-breaking speed, and now be used to skew election results. But we can harness that. We have to decide what the technology is going to be allowed to do and not allowed to do. And that's where I feel we're falling down. We're very quick to reap the benefits, including the profits, but we're not nearly as fast to stand back and say, okay, what do we actually want this to do? And what should we prevent it from doing? I mean, it's taken us a long time to get our arms around what these platforms make possible.
Yeah. Well, what do you think gets in the way? Is it leadership? Is it courageous leadership? Is it people being willing to culturally go, what's the worst that can happen? We're not going to do that.
Well, the consumer is sleepwalking. That's a big problem. You know, the consumer doesn't know what is being done to their personal information. So one of the things that I say is that, you know, if you're not paying for something, you're not the customer. You are the product. You are being sold. And that is what is happening with many of these platform technologies that we now have. And so I think we're sleepwalking, and we have been very, very slow to think about how this can be misused. And so now we've got these massive organizations that are so powerful that I don't know how we're ever going to get them into a proper path. Elizabeth, do you think that it's more important for more women to get into technology than it is for more women to lead the organizations? Because I think it's more important for women to lead the organizations, because at least then you have some way of shaping the agenda. Whereas I think if you just get dragged in as a woman to Facebook, given that you're probably 1 in 350, I think the pressures to conform are going to be so great. I think it's only when you get to the top of the organization can you really influence how that organization's culture is going to evolve.
I agree with that, but I don't think they're mutually exclusive, because I think that more organizations will need more technical skills, and that will come through to the top of the organization as well. So I think it's both that you need. It's not an either or.
But I think the challenge is it is a systemic failure across the educational system, one might say. I mean, we got the quote this morning, 100 young girls taking A-level. If you look across the apprenticeship frameworks, if you look at STEM, if you look at technology, and whether you look at it from an agenda around sort of the number of young female applicants, or if you look at it from the agenda in terms of the number of black, Asian, minority, ethnic, you know, the engineering and STEM are widely underrepresented. And actually what's disturbing is black, Asian, minority, ethnic are more likely to apply for an engineering and IT apprenticeship, but less likely to get it. So there is such a huge shift we have to get in terms of how we think, how we recruit, how we promote, and then when we have the talent in, of creating some very clear opportunities and pathways. You know, that's so, so important. I mean, yes, we need more female leaders, absolutely. But actually, you've got to come right the way back and look at the system as a whole and say, how do you serve those future leaders into work and give them something that actually builds value right from the very beginning? Because I don't think it does today.
And two thoughts at either end of the spectrum. I think the people that are writing algorithms, if you believe that unconscious bias exists, and then they're predominantly men, by definition, you are writing in that bias whether you want to or not. So I think you need to think about that. And then at the other end of the you know, we can use investor pressure. And I think more and more, I'm so pleased to see that investors are waking up and starting asking some quite pokey questions, and so they should. And that's great. And the more we can round that off, the better. I'm going to quickly ask for a final wrap-up, bringing it back to digital inclusion. Where's the hope, and what's your wish of the audience?
Well, I come back to my first point. You know, we have to think more about the human, and we have to be more humane. You know, I worry still that it's too much about technology. We have to think differently. The agenda around how do we encourage people to understand they've got to retrain, reskill, and as employers, as business. Actually, here, we spend less on employer-provided training in the UK than any other part of the EU other than Greece, Romania and Poland. So if we're going to support people on this journey of being included in technology, we have to step up and we have to invest more.
Elizabeth?
I think it's about inclusion per se, and that if you create communities and workplace communities where people feel that they're part of it, then naturally you'll give them the digital skills that they require to be able to exist within your organisation and within life more generally. And I think all brands want to be sustainable, so I don't think it's too late, because I think brands will want to be around for decades, like that the Boots has been, and therefore the brands themselves will know that customers need to love their brands, and therefore they will, all of us will address to make sure that we do the right thing by our customers.
Great. Moya?
I'd say be the backlash. It's backlash that's going to change things. Be the backlash.
Yeah, I think that's a great call to arms, Moya, absolutely. You know, I think we're at an inflection point on so many things. I've been saying this for a while. Technology is a massive inflection point of change. The debates we're having around inclusion and all these other things. And we've got to seize this opportunity. We've got to take this opportunity to really address these issues collectively, talk about them influencing governments, regulators, everybody else. Because there's far more visibility. So a lot of stuff that's been going on that we need to pay attention. And gender pay gap is another great example. I think that's an inflection point where we're getting more transparency and things. Now we've got to take the action to do something about it. And my final point would be, is that Peter Drucker quote, which he said, the best way to predict the future is to help to shape it. And that's what we all need to do. We all have agency in this, whether we're business leaders, parents, HR practitioners, learning and development, we all have agency. And we should be involving ourselves in shaping that future together.